Welcome back to Sports Blitz Live. Luke Robinson here with the Bradberry Medical Alabama Minute. The Alabama Crimson Tide went over to Oklahoma City last week, Saturday night, and lost to Oklahoma State. It was a close game throughout. Alabama made a couple of runs. They looked a little better than they had been, except in the first half. I think there was a spell there where they were about 3 for 20 from the field. But things got better in the second half. They shot 57%. It just wasn't enough. Alabama wasn't able to overcome the deficit. I think there was a 14-point deficit at the half. The Tide loses another one. They're now 5-6 on the season. All 5 wins coming at home. The good news is tonight they play Lipscomb College tonight in Tuscaloosa. I look for Alabama to get a win there. Then they come home again on December 28th to take on Pepperdine, until finally they play Toledo on January 4th before opening up the SEC season at Mississippi State. The other good news for Alabama, a lot of negative things basketball-wise, but the other good news for Alabama is that the rest of the SEC looks pretty down this year too. So the Tide's probably not going to win the conference, probably not going to win the West, but they do have a good shot at maybe finishing either second or third in the SEC West, I believe, just given the way the other teams have been performing of late. Trevor Relaford on the basketball side, he was named the SEC's Freshman of the Week, so good honor there for the young freshman from Kansas. On the football side, Alabama continues preparations for the Capital One Bowl against Michigan State. Alabama, of course, will be without Mark Barron, who had surgery this past week, a couple of weeks ago. But Michigan State just found out they will be without their leading receiver, B.J. Cunningham. So that's a big loss for Michigan State. While Alabama will be using the backup Will Lowry as a starter in the Capital One Bowl, Michigan State will also have to be replacing their number one receiver. So maybe those two things are a wash there for Alabama. No official word on many of the juniors for Alabama, whether they'll be coming back for their senior seasons. The only one that has made an announcement so far is Courtney Upshaw. He has said that he will be coming back for his senior season. There are a lot of other ones out there, 6 to be exact by my count. You've got Marquise Mays. I believe he will be coming back, even though he has said he's going to put out feelers for the draft. Donta Hightower, I also believe he will be coming back. And finally, Mark Barron, of course, as I mentioned earlier, had that surgery after the injury in the Auburn game. I believe prior to the surgery, he was probably headed to the pros. Now I think Mark Barron will have to come back and play another year and show everybody that he is fully rehabbed from that surgery. And that's very good news for Alabama fans, as he's one of the top safeties in the country. Those that I think are going to be leaving Alabama, Julio Jones, I think that he probably wants to come back. I think he enjoys the college experience. However, the money's just going to be too much. I mean, Julio Jones is just going to have to go it. And when you can get a check like that from the NFL, you're going to have to go and get it. Same thing with Mark Ingram. I think he's enjoying life at Alabama. I think he's won a national championship, certainly won a Heisman Trophy. And I think he'd like to come back. But again, I think it's going to be one of those situations where it makes too much sense not to go ahead and go on to the pros. And finally, Marcel Darius, I think he will definitely declare for the NFL draft. A lot of folks have him in the top 10, maybe even the top 5 as a draft pick, and I think it'd be crazy for him to come back at this point. I don't know that he can improve his stock any more than that. And finally, talking about recruiting with Alabama, still going very, very well. There's going to be some tense moments. The hiring of Will Muschamp, I think, have made things a little bit interesting with Hassan Clinton-Dix, arguably Alabama's best commitment so far. Clinton-Dix is a member of the Dr. Phillips High School in Orlando. He's been committed to Alabama for quite some time now. His teammate Dee Hart has been wanting to commit to Alabama, the one-time Michigan commit. But now Alabama may not be able to let Dee Hart come in January, which may force him to look at other schools. And I think now that Muschamp is at Florida, Dee Hart may look at Florida, and Hassan Clinton-Dix may also look at Florida. These two guys are very, very close friends, and both of them may end up at the same school. And unfortunately, that may not be Alabama. Right now, I'm going to say that Clinton-Dix does end up at Alabama. Dee Hart, I don't know what's going to happen with him, and people have been trying to predict what's going to happen with Dee Hart for quite some time now to no avail, so I'm not going to jump into that fray. Brett Callaway, saw him last week at the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game. He said to me on tape he is 100% committed to Alabama. He's going to take his visits because you should take your visits when you're a high school kid. You should go out there and see as much of the country as you can see. But I think Brent Callaway, arguably Alabama's second best commit, is 100% committed to the University of Alabama. This has been Luke Robinson with the Alabama Minute, brought to you by Bradberry Medical.